Hello, everyone. Glad y'all were joining us tonight. We're going to do a redo over a video that didn't. We had some technical issues Thursday night, so we've corrected. We hope everything about the computer system, got everything updated, and so far today during test it ran smoothly. Before we get into the program, as always, a little bit of housekeeping. We're going to be looking at the Evansdale murders tonight, and for we'll probably have several different shows coming up in the next week or so about this case. And if you have any information on this case, um, contact local law enforcement and advise them, give them all the tips and leads. As always, in our chat, do not use any names or initials of suspects, and have respect for the mods and each other. And with that being said,
Speaking of mods, we need to send good vibes to Molly. She fell yesterday and has a broken wrist. So she's a one-handed mod tonight. So y'all be gentle. If she doesn't respond right away, that's what's going on. And also, we have a birthday girl today. Jennifer Rochelle's birthday is today. So we want to say thank you for spending your birthday with us. And we appreciate all y'all do. I think that's it for me.
Okay.
Oh, no, one more. And This'll Do Nicely, 3-month member today. So thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate everybody's support from watching to our members, our guests. Whatever you can do to share, join, subscribe. We appreciate all that support because it allows us to do things just like what we did with this. I had a long weekend last weekend. Left for Iowa. It's hard driving. It's 12 hours nonstop, and which was all day Sunday. Got there Sunday night and started working on the case that night. And as you'll see as we go into the show, and we discuss some of the topics that Drew and I discussed about this case. All right, so let's get started on it.
You ready?
I'm ready. All right, guys. As always, a little brief bio. This is Mrs. Steve, and I'm Steve. I'm retired law enforcement, had 20 years of service. Started off in the jail, worked road, went into investigations. During those 20 years, I had all different types of training. From SWAT all the way up to becoming a state certified crime scene tech. Becoming that crime scene tech helped my investigator career tremendously. Allowed me to work all different types of cases from simple thefts to burglaries up to homicides. And after I retired, I found the true crime world and the web sleuths and decided at that point, what could I do to try to help have a large impact and to or to possibly aid and assist the web sleuths into looking and understand how law enforcement looks at cases so that we can all together have a greater impact, especially if something happens in your location. Whereas if you can assist law enforcement from any manner, that's what we want to do. But tonight, we're going to be looking at the Evansdale murders of Lyric Cook Marcy and Elizabeth Collins. Two beautiful little children that in July of 2012 were on a bike trail in Evansdale, Iowa. Just out enjoying a beautiful day during the summer. And unfortunately, there was a predator that crossed their paths and led to, at first, they were only missing. And as I was speaking to Drew Collins about this case, when I met with him Sunday night and we started discussing the case, and then throughout the day, Monday, and as we traveled, and he took me not only to the location where the abduction occurred and where the children bikes were found when they were first reported missing, all the way up to the crime scene. And we'll be breaking that down. We'll be breaking down the bike trail a little bit tonight, but we'll be breaking it down more when we start looking at suspects in some of the future shows. But I'm going to take a moment to express my respect and of this man, Drew Collins. he is resolved, he is determined, and his whole life is dedicated to finding justice for these two girls. Of course, Elizabeth is his child, and Lyric was his niece. And he's absolutely dedicated to do everything he can to bring justice. And I was in awe of talking to him and seeing how they have approached it. And they did a lot of things right since this has occurred. They did a lot of things right the day of. You never expect two children just to be riding in a neighborhood that you have lived in for years, and that, children go out and play and lose what time it is, and they may not be home within a certain time period. And you don't expect that there's a predator out there in a community that's never experienced what they experienced in Evansdale that day. And they didn't. The girls were missing for a while. They went looking for them, and after they went looking for them, it's like all searches. The parallels between Evansdale and Delphi is remarkable, and it's that way in a lot of cases. As we look into them, and as we look in additional cases, you'll see that they always start off as just a missing child. You don't expect that it's going to evolve from the law enforcement perspective, or even as a parent, that your child's out with other friends or with cousins and just riding the neighborhood, that it will quickly go to that it could become a kidnapping and eventually lead into a murder investigation, which is exactly what happened with this. And it was a sad and tragic event to that family, to that community, and it still is. I mean, we're looking at going on the 10-year anniversary of their bodies being discovered in December. So we'll be looking at that, especially on the anniversary. And so there's a lot of stuff that we can cover on this to bring awareness of the case, and so that if there's someone out there that we can jog that memory. And as we work on this case, and as I've talked to Drew about what my channel and is designed for, and what my community allows me to do by assisting me to go out and work with these families, and he's most appreciative of that. He thanked me so many times about that, and we, since then, I think we've communicated almost every day since I've got back, and given updates about different things that occurred during that week, and where we want to move on with this case and into the future. And I look forward to working with him, his family. They're all, his mother, his stepfather, all of them are dedicated to this case. And it's a remarkable family. And he has people working the case up there that each of them are assigned certain individuals, which is extremely smart on their part. And of course, we have law enforcement working it. And as law enforcement does a lot of times in these cases, they keep things extremely close to the vest. And so he doesn't have a lot of information from the law enforcement perspective. But Mrs. Steve and I, we're going to be working on trying to build them a database so that rather than each of the family members having to talk constantly about what they know and everything, that we're going to try to get that organized for them. And so as the case progresses into the future, and as time comes and passes, that we can all focus where we need to develop new leads, new suspects. And there's a lot of suspects in this case, just like there are in all cases. And we just have to focus and try to figure out exactly which of the suspects and what leads we need to focus on, and make sure that they're tipped into law enforcement, giving law enforcement every advantage that we can to solve this case. And that's what we've got to do. But like I said, they were missing, and then they were reported kidnapping after they found the bicycles and they couldn't locate the children. Mrs. Doglover, thank you for covering this case. Those poor girls need justice like the Delphi girls. Exactly. And, these little, like I say, they're beautiful children, 8, 10 years of age. And they lost everything. The families lost everything. These children lost a chance at life, which is unforgivable. That this predator, as we work on him or them, because once again, we're in that, is it one or two or multiples? And so we'll have to look at that as we progress into other episodes of as we follow this case. But
Uh-oh.
what's going on?
There you go.
Okay.
I have no idea.
Okay. All right. But after they were reported missing on December 5th, 2012, which was several months later after the July the 13th, I believe it was,
Mm-hmm.
that at Seven Bridges Wildlife Park, which is around 20-something miles away, in Bremer County, which is next county up, that they were, the remains were found. And so law enforcement has a crime scene now. I also visited that area, got some drone footage of it. And in tonight's episode, we'll be looking at some drone footage, hopefully.
We hope.
We hope. We got it loaded up. We hope everything works out tonight. As we searched that area and looked at that and evaluated it as far as what was the circumstances of why they might have been taken to this specific location. But it is an extremely interesting case, and we'll be looking at it further. Oh, seeking. All right. But this is a little bit about the park where they were taken from. As you can see, it's Myers Lake. It's now called Angels Park, where Lyric and Elizabeth are memorialized in the park. And there's other children that have lost their lives that are also part of this park now. And it's a beautiful park, well maintained, and it's dedicated to the memory of these victims. But I listed out several parts of this. As you can see, the last sighting, as you look at this lake, the last sighting was reported by an individual that was on the highway system. As he was traveling towards the top of the screen, he saw the Lyric and Elizabeth riding towards in the direction of the bottom of your screen. And where you see the arrow pointing to where the bicycles, that's where they were found. And we'll be going in, you'll see some more of the trail. And I included some slides tonight that I wasn't able to include Thursday night. But we got them in there tonight so that you'll have a clear understanding of what that scene looks like. Tina Bolger, thank you. Thank you for your support. I appreciate everything. And we always, we have a great community, and I'm humbled by all the support everyone gives us. So thank you. But then you have where the purse and phone, and there's like a 6-foot fence, as you'll see, that there's a certain part of this trail that is extremely confined, and you'll see that. And it is the perfect ambush point, as Drew had mentioned, even during our first conversations. He says, wait until you see where the abductions occurred. And he said, you'll see what I'm talking about. And I had no idea. I'd seen and looked at newspaper articles and read some stories on it and saw some news coverage and seen other creators create some stuff. But I really didn't know what it was like until I put boots on the ground and realized, and that's why I went. To work these cases, have a full understanding of them, there's a lot of things you have to do on the ground to look at it, evaluate it, to understand it. And so that you can evaluate why a predator would pick this location. And he picked that location, and there's a lot of reasons why he picked it, as you'll see. And there was also a suspicious vehicle reported in this location. And there's other vehicles that were reported in the area, but this is the one that Drew believes is most likely. And that's the reason There's other locations where that vehicle or a vehicle had been reported, but this is the one that Drew thinks is the key vehicle, and I agree with him. And you'll see as we go through the slides and where it was parked, that's where one person reported it being parked in this area, and it makes logical sense that if you're going to do an ambush and you're going to abduct children and you have a ruse or you saw these children earlier, on any part of this bike trail, you have plenty of time to get to this ambush point. And that was something else that we'll cover in upcoming shows about where the girls first got on this trail to where the bicycles were found and how long that trail is, which was something I didn't know until I got there. And Drew took me the whole length of the trail inside the Evansdale, and which I found amazing.
Can you click it?
Let me see if I can. Yeah, there
There
we
you
go.
go.
But at the south end of the, or the lower end of the lake here from this, it's not south end, but from the lower end right here, you see on the screen where the bicycles are to where that suspicious vehicle is. Now, this suspicious vehicle is my vehicle that I superimposed into it. This isn't the vehicle. It's a vehicle very similar to what was described. So this isn't the vehicle. If you know of a vehicle that was in that area, or you saw it, or you have information, because it's either an older white Chevrolet Suburban or Bronco, something, or Ford Bronco, or something in that type of vehicle class. And so they don't exactly know what type of vehicle it is, but I used this just to make sure I could give everybody a general understanding of what the area looked like and where that vehicle was parked. And so once again, I took my vehicle and put it into the scene. And this is my vehicle. It's a recreation. It's not the actual vehicle, but this is the general area where that vehicle was seen alongside the bike trail, where the fenced area comes out from where the, I guess it's for several hundred yards, 200 or 300 yards that this trail is fenced on both sides, as you'll see in just a few minutes with some of the slides. So that as you walk that trail, and once you enter this certain part of this trail, there's only two paths you can take on this trail. Either you continue forward as you go either way, or you turn around and egress back the way that you came. The trail is wide. You can drive a vehicle around it. Of course, you're only supposed to walk it or ride it on bicycles. You're not supposed to be on it in vehicles. But vehicles can get to certain areas of it and drive it. We drove it around it for ease to become familiar with it. We contacted law enforcement and they allowed us to travel it, and which we appreciate them for allowing us to do that. And then, but this is where the vehicle was in the area of right next to where the dual fence, each side of the trail comes to a end. And you'll see here as we progress that where that vehicle was parked at the end of that fence, we decided to do a sound test because you have that highway system that there's a lot of traffic, a lot of big trucks on it, and just car noise. And you have to, when you are there and you're discussing, as me and Drew were discussing the case, we had to almost, we had to talk in a very loud voice. And I wanted to do a sound test because being there at the area, I wanted to see at what point that you could hear someone scream, because it's very important that if the children were abducted and they were screaming and fighting, which residences might have been able to hear them and call in or report, and that could see this area. And so that's why the reason we did a sound test. I left Drew there at the end of the fences, and I went out about 200 feet that I walked off, and because I had measured from where the houses were to the closest house to where the vehicle would be parked. Um, if that was the abduction point and that's where they were placed into a vehicle, what would the screams sound like? At what level could you distinguish someone screaming for help? Drew is a full-grown man, and he was having to cup his mouth and scream at the top of his lungs. And at 200 feet, it sounded basically like you were just talking to somebody at 5 feet. You could not tell at 200 feet. So at 275, it would be even less, that you wouldn't be able to distinguish two young children screaming at the top of their lungs, and you wouldn't have a clear line of sight into the area where that vehicle was parked. And so with those conditions and those parameters set, you see that there was some type of pre-planning by the offender, by this perpetrator, that whenever he placed his and took the necessary steps to abduct these children, that everything fell into place, and he was able to abduct it, and no one the wiser at the time. Now this, as I've laid out on the left-hand side of your screen, you have where you can see the lake, and the arrow points what view you are looking at in the directions. So if you're standing on that path and you're looking to where that vehicle was parked, at this position here, you probably wouldn't even see a vehicle parked to the left of the fence. And you can see that it's still wooded, and you see some homes on down a couple hundred yards in front of you. So even at this point on the trail, like I said, you wouldn't see a vehicle. And this picture here was taken Monday Monday. And so the foliage is off the trees. And so even with the foliage off the tree, but when the abduction actually occurred, it would have been in full foliage, been plenty of leaves, and you wouldn't be able to see anything. Whereas now you can, but it's still very concealing of a vehicle. Then as we go and get closer to the end of the path, at this point, you would be able to see that there's a vehicle parked there, and I have an arrow pointing to it. And then I did these slides for the fact that in case the video doesn't play, that everyone will be on the same page as we move forward in the next series of videos, that you'll understand when we talk about we're trying to locate and what the situation was. And so you'll have a clear understanding of this path, and just so that we'll all be on the same page. But then as you can see, there's only a limited, and the houses, like I said, are 200 or 300 yards away on straight down the path. To the left, there's woods that in heavy foliage, you wouldn't be able to see the first houses or anything. It's just the lay of the land, and it's something that law enforcement would look at, that when you go to these areas, you go and you look at these ambush points, and why would a perpetrator select these? Why would they select these areas? And you know, these predators, they're exactly that. They're predators. They pick ambush points, whereas their movement is very limited. Their exposure to dangers, to other eyes seeing them, is very limited. That's what these predators do. And so then we go back down the trail. And this is looking, as you can see, where the view is from that location when you first get in this path. And so you see that's a choke point. I mean, all along this path, that if you met two children on bicycles, or you met an individual walking on this path, that you can't run off right or left. You have to either continue forward, or you have to turn around and run away from whatever type of danger that you see. So as far as being a choke point, ambush point, this is a natural place. It's on a very far corner where there's a lot of ambient noise that you're not going to be able to scream for help and be heard. And if there's a predator that has chosen this, you're at their mercy, as happened with Lyric and Elizabeth. Now it started doing it again. All right. So anyway, I took a series as you progress down the trail that you can see as you get on down that there, even around corners, there's little blind spots. And so as I went on down, and then we get to this area here, which is a little straightaway, and you can see that there's an elevation change. If you look at a furthest view as you can, that there's probably around a 6 foot to 8 foot elevation change on both ends from where the vehicle was parked, coming down that slight grade. You get down here next to the lake where it flattens out, and on each end of this little pathway that's blocked off by the fence on each side of you, that you have grade, and for you to get out, if you was on a bicycle, you would have to pedal uphill either way, or you'd have to run uphill if a predator is chasing you either way. And not only that, but it takes you below that. If there is anyone on those high areas, you're secluded by being in this valley, that your view of what's going on in these low-lying areas is not known by anyone. And as you'll see the video and you see some of these pictures, some of the trees have been cleared since the abductions in 2012. So there's far less foliage, less trees now than they were 10 years ago. And so they cleared it out to, I'm sure, to decrease the danger and make it a little bit more open, and less likely another situation like this could occur. And but as you progress on through, you see here, this is in the area of where the bicycles were found. And right across the backside of this fence, there's double gates there, that right past where the bicycles were found right here, that those gates on the day of the abduction, they were unlocked. And so a fisherman could have had access to be fishing there. And as we talk as possible ruses or suspects, it would be a place where someone could have access, park their vehicle up, and then come down here to fish and be able to go under the guise of being a fisherman and watching for that perfect opportunity. Is that what occurred? Don't know. But that's something that we'll be discussing in another part of our series as we progress with this case. But the phone was, and the purse that Elizabeth had was found on the opposite side of this fence. And of course, anyone could have just taken the phone from her, lifted their hand over the top of the fence and dropped it on the other side. Or they could have been on through that gates talking to somebody and the phone taken away from them and thrown to the fence. We don't know, don't understand, but exactly what went on that day. But it's things like that that we have to evaluate and determine what are the most likely events that happened that day that allowed these children to be kidnapped and abducted and transported 20 miles away to another county. And then you get to the other end of the pathway where it opens up into the trail into a more open area, whereas we don't have the fencing that blocks you off from the lake area and from the highway. If you have any information, and at this point, we're going to go back one slide and we're going to play the video. And
you want me to play it now?
Yeah. If the video, I'm going to try to talk in the, during this video. Hopefully everything goes great. But if not, just watch the video. It's about 3 minutes long, a little over 3 minutes, I think. Watch that video, and I'm going to be talking, describing. If you hear me, great. If you don't, then just bear with me, and then we'll take answers, and we'll talk about that trail some more.
We'll take questions.
And take questions.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you may have to take this one off. Okay. All right. This is the, I've got my drone going down through here, and as you see, as you progress in this area, now it was pretty windy at certain times, and so you have to bear with me that I didn't crash my drone, but I wanted to give everybody a visual of what it would be to walk this path and look at it, and as I walked it and flew my drone down through there. But you can see here where the houses are, how distant it is. You can see where it would be covered by the foliage all the way around in the summertime. And so this little area here is completely hidden from view in heavy foliage, summertime foliage with leaves and stuff. But then as I turn the drone around and we start flying down this path, only come close to crashing it maybe 2 or 3 times, but able to get down this path without hitting anything. But as you see, there's a slight incline here going downhill. And of course, these trees in summertime would be heavy foliage. This area from fence to fence is probably about 12 foot wide. So any individual that's standing there, he would be able to, even by himself, totally block anyone passing by on foot or on bicycle. These tree limbs here, I almost went the wrong way, but I was able to get under them. And but as you can see, that you come down this path and you just go along the pond here. And as we approach where the bicycles were found, you can see the lake. But I believe at the time of the abduction, there was more trees over there on the right, which is indicative that this is a good part of the lake for fishermen to be fishing in that time of year and possibly be a ruse. That's just something that we're going to be considering. But as you get over here, this is the double gates, and you can look around and you'll see that I think I swing around with the camera. Yes, that you can see the lake and you can see back into where people could fish, and you can see the embankment that from the highway, you can't see anything that's going on in that location where the bicycles were found. And it was the perfect storm of everything that could allow an abduction to occur is located on this trail in this specific spot. Then as I came out past the fence, you'll get up here and you'll start seeing the incline going back up the hill. And I'll take you up here and we'll give you an overview of both the highway and the park itself. And then that'll be the end of the video. But as I said, you can come up here and you can see that once you're in that valley, you couldn't see that vehicle from down in the lower area. And it's been vice versa, that from this area, you wouldn't be able to see anyone on that trail either. Which we found, that was part of the reason of going there, evaluating the situation and trying to understand what exactly went on that day. And so now we'll get up here and I'll go up and give you a good clear view of the highway and some of the traffic. Like I said, I didn't slow down a lot. I was trying to get everything on this one video as quick as I could, and so that everyone to have a brief understanding. It's a beautiful park, and it's a great memorial for these children. And if you ever get a chance to go there, go pay your respect and for these children, and let's try to find justice for them.
So that's done?
That's done.
Okay.
All right. So now y'all have
You want that back up there?
I'm going to go to this, that if you have any information on this case, notify Iowa's Crime Stoppers, give them tips, leads, call 911, whatever you have. If you have some information of a predator that was in that area, either he was known at the time or he has become known to you or someone else, because there is a possibility, just like with Delphi, that in this neighborhood, there is an unknown predator, and we need to identify him. And part of our plan of action will be addressing those issues that I discussed with Drew. And we've got some things that we're going to be working on and trying to figure out. Miss Doglover, parallels to Delphi in 2002 UK murders 2 little girls. Killer Ian Huntley inserted himself into the investigation. Evansdale is comparable to the Babes in the Woods murders of 2 little girls in England in 1986. Yes, and it's amazing how all these predators, they do. There's so many parallels, but when you look at that, when you target similar victims, that you do a lot of things that are similar. All the predators, they have to act in similar patterns to escape. and they would be quickly identified and captured. And so they do what's natural to them. They try to protect themselves while they abduct and kidnap. But if you have any information, like I said, call it in, notify. I appreciate your blue light still. But
I like my blue light.
But I appreciate your support. That means a lot to us, and we use that money to go out and work with other families, and we will be going back to Evansdale and working with Drew some more in the future.
You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Let's see here. Unsolved crimes uncovered. RA used to work with Walmart and would travel to Iowa.
I have heard those rumors, and of course, law enforcement will be looking at every possibility of trying to link all the information that they can from him, and would reinvestigate and check all the leads on that. But yes, there's Walmarts everywhere. Oh gosh.
All right. And Sleuth Intuition has dropped in. I think they dropped them at Seven Bridges because that was familiar to the killer in some way. Also, that was deemed far enough by the killer. His anchor is Evansdale or Waterloo.
100% with you there, Sleuth. 100% with you.
All right. And Molly, and hope your arm isn't hurting too bad. I've thought about you all day. It looks very flat there, or is it the angle of the picture?
On each end of the lake, there's where the trail dips down to where the double gates are. There's about a 7 or 8 foot elevation drop for a couple hundred yards, or probably about 150, 200 yards. That it drops down to where lake level is, and then it comes back up to where the houses are, and where you saw Drew's vehicle parked at the other end of the incline. And but yes, it's nothing like Delphi. Delphi, that terrain was extremely
awful.
Yeah, the terrain was just almost like bluff straight up and down. This bike trail is almost, when you come through town, it's flat, and the only dip I saw, because I walked this bike path all the way around the lake, which is extremely level, and we rode through town and it was still level, and the exposure of homes, that the path that Lyric and Elizabeth took, we went by a lot of homes, and which we'll be looking at in the future with Drew, and as we work out what homes exactly are potential witnesses, and interactions that that Elizabeth had that day and Lyric had that day with others, because they had contact with people prior to their abduction that wasn't the predator. And we'll be discussing some of that information in the future.
All right. And Sleuth Intuition, in my opinion, seems like 2 men jumped out of a vehicle. Both perps grabbed 1 victim each, quickly jump back into their vehicle, and most likely hold up nearby before heading to Seven Bridges.
It's possible, and we, that's something that we all have to evaluate and see what makes sense and what the possibilities are. But right now, we don't have anything that doesn't say that's absolutely possible.
And Anne, this is such a specific crime location. Evansdale, Iowa only has a population of about 4,500 folks, and that's been steady for decades.
Yes, and this location has a lot of similar characteristics to Delphi. When Mrs. Steve and I traveled to Delphi, it took us about 20 minutes to realize that this wasn't someone that had researched and easily found the Delphi Bridge. It took us, the Monon High Bridge, it took us, when you type it in and searching for it, it takes you to different parts of the trail, as we found out. But we were able to find it, but it wasn't that easy. And it's the same with this Myers Lake. It's well known to fishermen. It's well known to the community. But when you leave the interstate, it's not on the exit. You have to drive through a community to get to this park. And which is a large, fairly large community. I mean, 4,500 people, but and the houses are densely packed, and it's a beautiful neighborhood. But you would have links to that neighborhood, and I believe the predator does.
All right. And JDR, could it be someone who lives near the park?
Absolutely. And that's what we're going to be trying to develop. There are known offenders, registered offenders in that neighborhood. And of course, law enforcement would look at those. And they've, over the years, Drew and his team have identified other persons of interest. And that's part of our plan is that we need to develop as many leads as we can, either on those already known suspects, but also the unknowns. And we have, like I said, we have a plan of action of how to develop those, and that's what we're working on currently.
And Olivia, too, at True Crime Web, have you seen the CCTV of the girls riding their bikes?
Yes, and that's actually right next to the Drew's residence, and so that is where that is. It's I mean, you can look out his door there and see where that location is, and so that is when they were first on their. At a point during their ride that they were up there. But also, I didn't realize that the bike trails also start in that general area that is dedicated for the walking trails, bike trails, that looking at it from overhead, you think it's city streets. It's not. It's a dedicated bike trail that's marked no vehicles. And you have to, it's only for pedestrians and bikes, which I never knew until I got there.
All right. And Kimmy, did any of the POIs talked about in the Evansdale case have access to similar vehicle?
I'm sure that, the Suburbans, the Broncos, being a white vehicle and everything, there's so much potential that of in similarities between the case that, yes, you probably will have similar vehicles, descriptions, and similar. When this predator is identified, and is he a serial offender? I believe so, and so we'll have to look at that. And so they, like I said, there's so many traits and so many coincidences between these two cases that we're still, as far as my involvement, we're in the very early stages of the investigation.
All right. And Susan, did they try to hide or cover the girls?
We, at the crime scene, we don't know. We have no information of the crime scene, what was recovered, what evidence was there. You're looking at 6 months or 5 months difference, from July to December. And from the time that they were abducted to the time that they were discovered. So we don't know what evidence and if they were covered at the time, but there was certain things that when we get to the crime scene, I show you that footage and what that are extremely concerning about that crime scene. And there was special effort taken to take the girls to where they were taken. It wasn't just that you pull in the parking lot and you dispose of 2 victims. There was additional effort made.
And Eileen, what is the purpose of the fenced section of trail?
The only thing I can figure is that part of the trail they didn't want, whereas if they were children, because the pond is right there, the lake is right there. Maybe they just didn't want somebody stepping off into it at night or riding a bicycle off. I don't know what it is, but they created a corridor of being fenced in, and I don't know what the purpose was. I'm sure that whenever they developed that park and that trail, that they had something in mind, but that would be up to whoever designed that part of the walking trail and bicycle trail.
And looks like Evansdale is also an older community. Per U.S. Census, median age is about 40.
Yes, we are working on the demographics of that, put into the database now.
And sleuth intuition. I've seen kidnapping caught on camera. What they do is set an ambush and quickly get you into the vehicle. Car creeping behind and person hiding up ahead waiting to jump you.
And that's part of this is that from where the vehicle was spotted to where those double gates are, you're probably looking close to 100. I think I walked it. You can walk from those double gates to where that vehicle is in 2 minutes. Right around 2 minutes is the walk time. That's a casual walk. You could run it, of course, in a fraction of that. But the walk time from where the bicycles were discovered and the purse is about a 2 minute walk.
We have some trolls tonight, just so you know.
Yeah.
You get them, girls.
I mean, why in the world would you want to troll?
I don't know.
I don't
They
either.
just do. Okay, digital. What do you make of the girls needing to ask directions of how to get to the lake? Do you think someone asked them to meet there and they didn't know exactly how to get there, even though been there before?
There's, of course, there's going to be a lot of, is that possible? Yes. Were the children, how many times had they been there and what paths had they taken before? I don't know all the information on that. But Drew did mention that they asked the individual about exactly where is the start of the bike trail, because it looked just like a city street that you could miss it. And is this the way they went to the lake or to the bicycle trail before? Don't know how many times they had been down there before or which paths they had taken prior to. But on that day, they did talk to someone and ask them how exactly where is the start of the trail. Because when we drove into it and Drew turned onto it, I thought it was just another road until I saw the sign, which I'll show you, that bikes and pedestrians only.
All right. And Kimmy, wow, that looks like the same time of ambush as Delphi, cornered by bridge and cornered by fencing.
Yes, like I said, predators pick ambush points that the victims are limited in the availabilities of how to get away. It's sad, but that's how predators work. Mrs. Steve gets a lot of.
They're worried about trolls.
You see somebody.
If anybody sees a troll, just block them. No questions asked.
Yeah, just take care of them. Don't worry about them.
Okay.
If they don't have anything in their life to do other than be here.
Yeah, they're being mean to my mod, so y'all just take care of them.
And if you don't have any respect for our mods and stuff, there's a lot of other
go
channels
someplace else
to go watch.
You don't want to get Mrs. Steve mad.
No.
All right, Olivia. When the girls first went missing, some questioned if they had been talking to someone on the internet.
I don't know. No. That was not that I know of. Talking to Drew, that is not something that they were a part of.
And cold truth. Oh man, bottleneck. So not a crime of opportunity, it seems.
It could be, for the fact that you could, if certain ruses, which Drew has an idea of what he believes occurred, that someone may have told them, hey, and it's possible. Kristen behind Confide Art. So much respect for everything you're doing for Lyric and Elizabeth. God bless you. Thank you, Kristen. And I'll be on your show shortly. Right after our show, I'm going to go over there and we're talking about Delphi and Flora. So join me over there after this show is presented. But he has a theory that it may be as simple, and this is just one of his many theories, but it may be as simple that the girls came across someone that saw an opportunity to tell the girls to go to this location, that, hey, I'm looking for my puppy. If you go this way, I'll go that way, and I'll meet you over there. And is that possible? Absolutely. Is it possible that they entered the parking lot and somebody was under the guise of being a fisherman? And like I say, we'll be covering all of these in more details um, when I have the next presentation looking closely at the trail.
All right, hold on one second. All right, looking better. All right, Eileen, why is the fence on the trail still in place?
I don't know. Like I said, there has to be some safety concern for either people walking off in the lake, or there's something access to city that they're trying to protect people from getting easy access. Because I believe that double gate now, when Drew and I was there, it was locked, and there's a little driveway out there to it, that a little almost ground pier that goes out to that area that I don't know if there's certain equipment out there in that shaft or what there is out there, but they may be protecting something or trying to keep people from getting in the lake there. Don't know. You gotta find that out. I'll see if we can't figure out somebody from the whoever developed or designed the park. They may have that answer.
I just got one, and that felt so good.
Yeah.
Don't be picking on my mods.
Bye. Respect the mods, respect each other. That's all we ask.
All right. And Molly, the chain link kind of ruins the vibe of the park. Was it there in 2012?
Yes, it was.
That is odd.
From the highway system, I can understand if children are out there playing, you don't want them to get up to the highway. But the other little section there is kind of strange.
And based on other recent cases, I'm really into the basic idea that perps likely to live within 1 to 5 miles of crime scene.
There's a rule that we used to go by that they taught us in profiling that generally 7 miles or 10 minutes is the old baseline. I don't know if that's still true, but that's what they taught us back when we was going through our profiling.
And unsolved crimes uncovered. Do you believe Iowa State Police has worked closely with Indiana State Police? If there's DNA from Evansdale, would that be returned automatically via CODIS for other state alert?
I believe so. I believe so on all of that. There's the algorithms of those search engines with CODIS and everything would new entries would check against old cases and new cases, and old entries would be against new offenders as they're identified and their profiles are entered.
And Pigeon, recipe for disaster: peaceful park, heavy foliage, loud highway, 2 feet away. It's not quite 2 feet, but it ain't far. I was worried going down through there. I thought, well, if you're down here in this holler and somebody comes off that interstate, it is a disaster waiting to happen. I don't know if that's ever happened where anyone's run through that fence. And Perry, there should be lighting and CCTV on a trail like that, especially with a history like that.
And I don't know if there's any cameras there or not. Didn't even think that I didn't see anything. And there wasn't any indicators that there was cameras in that area.
Oh, that's sweet. All right, and let's see here. They should make obliterating. They want to obliterate trolls as a game.
Oh yeah, we can create our own little online game, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Trounce a troll or something.
That would be good. Trounce a troll, kind of like whack-a-mole. You could trounce a troll. Okay. And Kelly, has any POIs, present or past, for Delphi ever owned an older white SUV that would match the suspected auto for Evansdale?
I don't know, but law enforcement would look at those, and they would look especially at Richard Allen and others that might fit that profile and ownership of those vehicles. As you know, they've determined that Richard Allen, now if he has connections to Evansdale, he'll be looked at. But if there's no connections, then of course it's just going to be the similarities are just going to be coincidences. I agree with Drew that all those coincidences are that, and I believe that we have a separate offender from Delphi.
And Honeybee, Ellie should do these kind of presentations whenever there's a murder. Townsfolk could help if they knew the specifics.
And we don't know all the specifics, but I wanted everybody to see this, and so that we can make awareness of it. And if anyone in that area, and it brings back a memory, that's all we can do, is how do we generate new leads? And it's through, as I spoke to Drew Thursday, right before the other issue we had with the computer. I asked him, I said, is there anything you want me to tell the viewers and the community? And he says, thank them for what they're doing on this case, looking at the case, discussing the case, bringing awareness to the case, generating information on the case. And he absolutely is appreciative of everyone out there that talks about this case and brings information about it to light. And like I said, I'm in awe of his resolve and his determination. And I like Drew a lot. Respect him a lot.
All right. What time do you have to go? Can I keep going?
Yeah, keep going.
Okay. All right. And sees through, were they known to ride at this location often?
I don't think so. Drew said he couldn't remember how many times they'd been to that area or that park before and what areas they'd been. From his, he thought they'd been there before, but he wouldn't. I didn't go at and ask him exact number, how many times. And I just general conversation. I said, how many times they've been there? He said, I don't really know. So anything I say on that is my opinion of what it means. It's not what he says. During this day, and we discussed so much, and it was a continuous conversation, and we were evaluating so many things and discussing, and I have a book full of notes that as I go through them and get everything organized for his family and everything to continue on, I'll have a clearer picture as we progress.
In Veritas Investigative Services, so there's not a discrete egress point.
No. I appreciate this. Jordan here has started a service up there, and he has helped me in the case prior to, and he continues to help me on this case. And he does some type of computer analysis and checks on things about risk of people. But anyway, check him out if you can. Like I said, he's helped me in gathering information on this case, and I want to thank him for that.
And Jesse, so the perp in Evansdale chose the perfect spot to abduct the girls from, just as the perp in Delphi chose the perfect spot to abduct the girls from.
That's what I said. These predators, they work. Their similarities are so uncannily similar to each other. But that's what, like I said, if you look at predators, even in the wildlife, they'll water holes, or they have certain areas that is most, that if you ran the numbers, what part of that water hole would be most productive? Where is it most concealed? And all predators act alike.
All right. And Cold Truth, is Seven Bridges a hunting preserve?
Yes. We were out there, and Drew, I brought some orange caps and stuff, so that which were donated by a on one of my Delphi trips by a person that was helping me on that they came in handy. I kept them, and so we had some fluorescent orange on when we went into the hunting preserve because there were people out there hunting, and we didn't want to most certainly get shot while we're out there looking at the area at Seven Bridges.
All right. And Olivia, I think I missed it. Are the Evansdale records still sealed?
Yes, everything about what law enforcement knows, no one else knows, including Drew.
And Mike, I think the killer lives within 20 miles of the trails.
I would, yes. Yeah, because you have the 2 points. You have the abduction site, and then you have the where they were discovered.
And at True Crime, this is from Molly, at True Crime Web, can you speak to the way the bodies were laid out?
Yes, we're going to be looking at that whenever I do that part of the series on the, we'll talk about I'll have all the distances and as best as I can calculate of what that might mean, of where the bodies were moved to, how far they were apart, and what that might possibly mean as far as offender or offenders.
And Ann, so time abduction frame is between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. on a Friday. Probably not many folks at that park on a workday afternoon. And
yes, similar to what Delphi was during that time period. And like I said, it's the similarities are uncanny.
In Aries Dawn, do they know approximately how long the girls may have been at the location in which they were found?
Not that we know of. Law enforcement would have a better understanding, but if you go by the statistics of how long a victim from an abduction normally is alive, it's just a few hours. That they may have been up. They may have been at Seven Bridges, and within an hour or two of their abduction.
And Ann, was there any DNA recovered?
We don't know what law enforcement has. We don't know if they recovered articles that didn't belong to the victims that may have withstood exposure to the elements over time. That's something the offenders might have brought into the crime scene where the girls were discovered. We just don't know what evidence there is.
And Joan, so glad we got a redo. Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. Steve. Hopefully the power of public interest and hard work like yours will give Mr. Collins some justice.
Yes, Mr. Collins,
all of them.
Yes, all of them, because you have the parents of Lyric, you have the mother of Elizabeth, and you have the grandparents, you have cousins, you have all this extended family, and you have these two victims that absolutely demand justice. And we're going to do everything we can to see if we can.
And Callie, could it be a crime of opportunity if a local that knows the trail around the lake well and spotted the girls heading down it and quickly drove around to where they would exit?
Yes. And as we talk about the trails, and because I walked it, that even if you was at the other parking lot or the only parking lot for Myers Lake where the public in general parks, that to get from that location to where the and I timed it, and I've got it in my notes, and we'll be covering that when we cover the trails. And I think we're going to do the trail video. Let's see, this is probably Tuesday night.
If we can get it to work.
If we can get it to work.
All right. And see-through, do we know if we've already talked about the foreign DNA.
Yeah,
okay.
We just don't know.
Okay, don't know that. All right. And Joan, who lived close? He couldn't control two in a car too long.
You wouldn't think so by himself.
Yeah. And one who sees, I love that name. Where is Steve going when this is over?
Texas.
Nope. Oh, yeah. Or is it Kristen behind the crime door?
Oh, I have a cold case in Texas. But when this
You're
video,
not leaving for Texas
no,
tonight.
I'm not leaving for Texas tonight. Okay. No, when this show is over, I'm going over to Kristen behind the crime door, and we're going to be looking at, I think she said Flora and Delphi.
Mm-hmm. All right.
So, you know, I'm going to Texas too.
Yeah, at some point.
Yeah.
All right. And Ann, seems like Perk would have been to that park before to scope it out. Wonder if other folks came forward remembering seeing a guy in a van hanging out on previous days or weeks.
Yes, and that's what we're trying to generate, that as we get information out to the public, that go back and look at your pictures for that 4th of July, because this is July 13th. Go out and look at pictures, and when we talk to certain people in the community, that we have that plan of action of people that would visit that park for specific reasons, that we're going to try to build that database with that information from those individuals that spent time at that park during those periods.
All right. So I'm cruising. Do you, let's see here. And DGR Dave, Steve, do you think killers prey on smaller communities like this because of the smaller police force?
They're everywhere. You can go in any community and type in these and search for these registered offenders, and there are just so many of them out there. And you'd be amazed. And you know, I suggest all parents do that and see where these offenders are and look at those pictures. And when you go to a park or something, if you see any of these individuals, notify law enforcement immediately.
All right. All right, so they're all talking to each other.
Okay.
So I think we're good.
All right, guys. I appreciate y'all joining us tonight.
Wait. Uh-oh. I got to figure out how to get that. Hold on.
There we go. Josh the Posh 63, $5. I didn't realize you were live. I rarely catch you at True Crime where I enjoy your analysis coupled with your open mind, straightforward analysis. Thank you, sir. And I appreciate your support and your support, and everyone that does everything for us, for our members and that donate. It does allow us to go out there and do what we can to have an impact on these cases. And I most respect and appreciate every one of y'all for doing that. And from the views, the shares, and also all the members and the donations. We're humbled by them. Thank you.
All right.
Oh,
So,
and one other thing, to Will, brought up a point that, you know, these families, they see a lot of stresses and everything. And there's a lot of ways out there that they deserve. These families, they're under a lot of stress, and there's a lot of, and we're going to be doing a show, whereas I'm going to be reaching out to certain organizations that, you know, Drew is a part of an organization that supports other victims of crimes that lost children. And so there's a lot of great organizations out there, and I'm going to be getting with Will, and we're going to be discussing some organizations like that. And I saw your name in there. I just wanted to give you a heads up that I did see your email, and we'll be discussing that in the future. But anyway, guys, I want to thank everyone that showed up tonight. I'm going to run over to Kristen and watch and participate in her show and see if there's anything I can do that if she has any questions for me. But I want to thank everybody for being here tonight, and I'll see y'all Tuesday night.
thank y'all so much for letting us do the redo, and we appreciate it and love you.
Bye-bye.